why do you need headspace? Well, giving yourself headspace allows you to free your mind and give your brain that sort of time and space to think, to pause, and reflect. So you can really get into deep quality thinking. It gives you a chance to have a virtual new whiteboard, to give your brain the space to generate ideas. It's kind of like having a new office with a blank whiteboard that you can design and create new ideas and then think about an implementation plan. It allows you time to invest in strategic planning time, to think about what you need to do to grow your practice. And it also reduces stress levels. So having that time away from your business to pause and to think will give you a break from the everyday work. You get breathing space as well as thinking space. Now, we all need headspace, but what I'm going to cover in this slide is how your brain works, sort of the neuroscience link to maximizing your productivity and creativity and reducing stress. Heather's book is about how to build a profitable £1 million practice, working fewer hours with less stress. So we'd all like to have that, working fewer hours with less stress and have a very profitable business. So we're going to look at ways that you can do that. Deliberate rest means working better, not necessarily working longer hours, but working better. So working less and resting better. Resting better, it could be actual sleep, or it could be going for a walk, or reading, playing a game, or enjoying a favorite hobby. When you do things like going for a long walk, your subconscious mind keeps working on problems. The experience of having your mind slightly relaxed allows you to explore different combinations of ideas and test out different solutions. I'm going to share with you some examples of people that you may have heard of and how they either used or currently use deliberate rest. So have a think as I share these examples and think that you do something similar. So Winston Churchill had a daily routine of a nap in the afternoon, even throughout World War II, as did Douglas MacArthur, Dwight Eisenhower, and JFK. They all set aside time for rest, even in the midst of the craziness going on in the world. Steve Jobs was famous for his walking meetings around the streets of Palo Alto. Bill Gates reads before he goes to bed. He sometimes spends 1 week, twice a year, alone in a cabin for his Think Week. Meg Whitman goes fly fishing. Charles Darwin had a daily practice of taking long walks on what he called his thinking path. Darwin famously worked only 4 hours a day. Warren Buffett plays with the ukulele. Uber CEO Travis Kalanick walks 40 miles a week on the indoor track at his company's headquarters. Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter and Square, wakes up at 5:30 a.m. for meditation and then a 6-mile jog. And he also takes breaks during office hours to stroll outside. It's just part of his daily routine. Chemist Carey Mullis, who came up with the basic principle of polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, which is the fundamental technology that makes genetic tests possible. He discovered, not in his lab, this PCR principle, but on an evening taking a drive up the northern South California coast. It just came to him as he was taking this drive. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki said that I found that sometimes you get really good insights by just taking time off work. Architect Frank Lloyd Wright said that he came up with his best ideas between 4 and 7 in the morning. If he woke up at 4 a.m. and couldn't get back to sleep, he would just get up, work 3 to 4 hours, and then he'd go back to bed for a nap. Nicholas Thompson, who's the author and editor of Wired, said, I do notice a lot of the best thinking I get or ideas that are generated or problems that are solved happens when I'm running and I'm trying to focus on stuff outside of my head. Oprah meditates 2 times a day for 20 minutes. And she says that I walk away feeling fuller than when I came in, a full sense of hope and a sense of contentment and deep joy. Knowing for sure that even in the daily craziness that bombards us from every direction, there is still the constancy of stillness. Only from that space can you create your best work and your best life. So when you're out of your common element, the creative part of your brain is stimulated in new and different ways. Exercise is an important part of rest. Many people find that exercise clears their minds and helps them to calm down, reduce the stress, and gives their subconscious mind an opportunity to think through the problems. Meditation is another thing to look at. When you run out of ideas, one way to increase creativity is using mindfulness meditation. Researchers at Rotterdam School of Management at Erasmus University conducted research to see if 10 minutes of meditation could make people more creative. The researchers were interested in whether a few minutes of mindfulness meditation would be enough to boost creativity. They found that if people meditated for 10 minutes, they came up with a 22% wider range of ideas than the people who did fake meditation or just relaxed. Several companies have introduced meditation and quiet spaces, yoga class, and other mindfulness practices in the workplace. Apple, Deutsche Bank, Google, Goldman Sachs, Nike, Prentice Hall Publishing, Procter & Gamble, and Yahoo are just a few. The executives at these companies say that meditation is not only useful as a stress reduction tool, but also enhances creativity. So yes, they're big companies, but think about how you could use their ideas to do something in your own workplace. Or if you work mostly on your own, what you could do for yourself. Meditation techniques are easily available through apps such as Headspace and Calm. And it's just a way of just letting your body relax and generate ideas. The serious leisure. You might have heard this term. It's also called deep play. And that's when ambitious people work hard and play hard. But it's the play element that's particularly interesting. People that engage in serious leisure have hobbies that absorb quite a lot of their time and energy. It's through these serious hobbies that they get a mental break from work. The mental break offers the psychological rewards that are similar to work, but in a different context. So serious leisure is a break from work that could be otherwise unhealthily consuming. It sustains a person's ability to work, and consider it resilience training. We have that at Excedia. Heather pays for us to have a personal trainer, and she considers that as resilience training. Just keeps us going. Serious leisure is varied and specific for each person. For some people, it could be running, or sailing, swimming, or painting, gardening, rock climbing, or some other absorbing hobby or sport. Deep play provides many of the same psychological rewards and satisfactions as work, but without the frustrations. So some examples are Vogue editor Anna Wintour. She's former Vogue editor. She plays an hour of tennis every morning at 5:45. Charles Dickens walked 10 miles a day. Dickens, like Darwin, also worked only 4 hours a day. Winston Churchill took on painting after World War I, or the First World War. He produced incredible paintings. Stephen Alexander is a Brown University theoretical physicist by day and a serious jazz musician at night. He's written a book called The Jazz of Physics about how creativity and intuition unite his favorite of art and science. Britton Chance was a biophysicist and biochemist, but he was also a serious sailor. He won a gold medal for sailing in the 1952 Olympics at the 5.5 meter class for the US. So these are people that work really hard, but they also play really hard. Many people who have learned to rest well are also serious athletes. There are academic subcultures where athleticism is really valued. In modern mathematics and physics, there are lots of really respected scientists who are also avid rock climbers. For example, Lisa Randall is a theoretical physicist who has climbs named after her in Colorado. But the key benefit of serious leisure is that the activities are a diversion from work. It also provides the same satisfactions as work. The activities are mentally absorbing and often physically challenging. This combination is essential for driven people who are obsessed by the work, because it allows them to channel some of that obsession into another activity. That it gives them a break and raises the odds that this diversion will be something that they do regularly rather than just get bored and give up. So what do you do for serious leisure? Just pop any responses in the questions. And serious leisure doesn't need to just be something really active. It could be a really serious hobby that you do. Matt goes running. Mark watches TV. That is, so your serious leisure is watching TV. Is that doing binge watching, Mark? Started weightlifting, tapas. Yeah, it's very good. It's about investing time away from your business, but doing something very stimulating for your body, either physically or mentally. And if you don't do anything now, have a think about something that you can do to really help take away the stresses of work, but do something in a different way that will stimulate you, and you'll see what the creativity flows out of that. Which leads me to the next thing, which is creative cognition. Creative cognition is the ability to come up with creative ideas and products and solutions to problems. It's always been an inexplicable fact that we get the best ideas, sort of the flashes of insight, when we relax and let our mind wander. You might have experienced it at some point. So, you're making a cup of tea or making your lunch or relaxing in the garden, and an idea just pops in your head. It might be a new idea or a solution to a problem with which you've been wrestling. The neuroscience explanation is this. Idea and creative thinking is closely linked to the part of your brain called the frontal lobes. The frontal lobes are the gatekeepers to your brain. When they are active, they decrease your ability to come up with creative solutions. When you are relaxed and you let your mind wander, your frontal lobes go into a temporary sleep mode, which allows ideas to flow more freely. This temporary brain state makes it easier for ideas to flow from your unconscious into your conscious mind and these bright ideas to occur. So that's actually what's happening in your brain. When you take time to think about strategic planning for your practice, there's significant value in taking time out of your business to relax and let your mind wander. You might come up with new brilliant ideas and solutions. Now, just to go back to the whole frontal lobe thing, some people are naturally hyperfrontal, which means that the frontal lobes are a little less active all the time. So in other words, their frontal lobes are not controlling them and forcing them as much, and they're likely to have more flashes of insight and think divergently and be creative. But for the rest of us who aren't naturally hyperfrontal, we need that time away just to relax and let the creativity come through, the ideas we stimulated, which is really important for growing your business. There's a plethora of neurophysiological studies that demonstrate that listening to or playing music has multiple measurable effects on human brain structure and function. In one particular study, neuroscientists were interested in the link between music and dopamine, a brain chemical involved in pleasure and satisfaction. In their research, they found that dopamine was released at moments of peak enjoyment whilst listening to music. Their findings support the idea that human creativity relies on dopamine, and that dopamine increases creative thinking and goal-directed working. So listening to enjoyable music can help you to be more creative. So any of these areas with deliberate rest, meditation, serious leisure, or creative cognition, there's quite a lot of research that backs all this up. And if you're one of those people that just wants to know the research, send me a message and I can send you the links to all of this. It's all supported as research. But that's what neuroscience has to say about why you need to take time out and away from your business in order to operate at your best. So I wanted to share with you the Bill Gates story. Twice a year, Bill Gates spends 1 week alone in his cabin for his Think Week. I don't know, you may have heard of his Think Weeks before. A lot of innovations that evolve out of Microsoft come from these weeks. He assesses what his company has been doing and where it ought to be going. He spends several hours a day reading newspapers and magazines and company reports. He's searching for ideas about trends, so trends in digital communication, advances in microprocessor speeds, digital photography, and so on. Each week is crammed full of inputs, followed by a flood of emails to his colleagues and employees about new ideas, old ideas, existing projects, and proposed ones. Prior to each Think Week, Gates has his assistant collect papers from every corner of Microsoft. So according to what he thinks his priorities might be, he says, come on, everyone, just send in all your papers, all your ideas. So it's an opportunity for everyone in the organization at any level to reach the top with their ideas. The retreat is not particularly relaxing for him. He sometimes works 18 hours a day, and for breaks, he gives himself 5 minutes to solve a daily online bridge problem. Occasionally, he'll take a time out for a short walk, but the output he gets is significant. He's been known to produce a 6-inch printout of Think Week comments. And then there are follow-up meetings for weeks afterwards. So think about what you've done in the last year to get away from the fray and see your business from a longer-term, broader view perspective. The point is to give yourself the time and space to think, to shut out work so you can let in the inputs. If you want to do it the Bill Gates way, that means no phone or email contact, just an emergency number. Gather inputs that stimulate your thinking. It could be books or industry and analyst reports, technology trends, predictions. You could also bring inspirational materials. Decide what you need to bring with you and figure out what kind of schedule will work best for you. You might want to start with a 1 or 2 or 3 day retreat, and you could do a separate retreat for each of your themes in your 3-year growth plan.